Welcome to the, if you could believe it, Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, for our last show of 2024. Yes, and believe it or not, we are discussing something that's not related to Marvel. We're discussing the Superman trailer. But before we get to that and all of those things, patreon.com/MC University Pod, where you can get our bonus content, such as the soon to be released in the next, let's say, couple days or so. You'll get John Wick Chapter 2 with myself, Jay Christie, who you see right there, and our pal Rod Morrow, aka the Black Guy Who Tips. The John Wick series is a lot of fun. If you want to tap in with us on Patreon, $3 to get that, our Discord, and everything else along those lines. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, the whole 9 yards. And with that being said, let me introduce the super producer, Jake Christie. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk about a trailer that I think, unlike I think it's been a long time since the trailer got so many people a buzz.
Yes, and the Superman trailer, to put it quite succinctly, and we could talk about ideologies and James Gunn's general thoughts on how he goes, and we'll talk about that as we go further. But just to talk about the trailer quickly, in my opinion, everything that I felt about this movie and the way that James Gunn has theorized it in the last year and change is plays out on screen in this trailer. Like, I think there is just such a level of optimism and the way that Superman is presented that, quite honestly, if you are a fan of the medium, and this is a thing that people forget, Superman is so huge. Like, just a pop culture icon of the highest order. We're talking about 5-6 million views on YouTube within the first 4 hours of this trailer being released. People have been waiting for a new Superman movie and just a new Superman medium to come out this way for so long, especially after the Snyderverse stuff happened. So to get this and to get, honestly, something very incredibly uplifting was
Mhm.
tremendous. So Jake, I want to hear what you thought about it.
I think what this trailer made me think about is like, and I know Snyder fans aren't going to want to hear this, and that's fine. And I'm not saying this to be condescending, but I think for a lot of people, myself included, like Man of Steel doesn't really even feel like a Superman movie.
No.
Like in my head, I kept being like, yeah, we haven't had a Superman movie since 2006, which obviously isn't true. Man of Steel came out in 2013, but like in terms of like what this movie is, we have not had anyone even attempt it since that Sex Pest made that movie in 2006. So it's like it's been so long since we've had because we've had positive, superhero movies and we've had like earnest superhero movies, but the combination of both where it's like it's trying to be grounded in the character and but also like not being gritty. Like I think that's like the balance we haven't had yet because we've like I think like
Yeah.
previous James Gunn movies like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are very positive, but they're not very grounded. And like the Dark Knight trilogy is very grounded, but it's not very positive. And I think to capture both those things at the same time is like a really hard balance. I think people I mean, this is just a comment on humanity generally, but a lot of people mistake
Sure.
cynicism for smarts, and I think it's actually much harder and much more intelligent to pull off earnestness in a way that's not corny. Like, I think it's actually
Bingo.
really easy.
Yeah.
Like the Zack Snyder take on Superman, in my opinion, is the intellectually lazy take on Superman. Like,
It's
yeah,
emotionally unintelligent to me.
it would be yes. Are you in fifth grade? It would be crazy if there was an alien who was like, what if Superman was evil? Like, yeah, I thought about that when I was when I was 10. But this, like, trying to make the old school version of Superman who saves little girls from accidents, who, is a bumbling guy as Clark Kent, that I think is a much harder thing to pull off. And I admire so much that he's going for it. I admire that he clearly is like, no, this character means something. And if you think about it, because Superman Returns didn't do super well, and it also was like weird because it was like both like
Yeah.
a successful unironic Superman movie hasn't come out in like 40 years. Like I think that people are really craving it. I think that that's where a lot of the response is. I think people are like, wow, like we could use this. And I think that I'm of the opinion that like bad times don't need cynical works of art. Bad times need works of art that can uplift us. And not in like a naive way, but in like a we have the capability. And just James Gunn saying all the right things about how he views humanity, how he views that going into this project. So I'm so excited.
I think my heart kind of sings watching this. It You feel a specific energy, and I think the energy is from the fact that the way that they present Superman is this good person who's trying to do good things, and the people around him looking at it like, wait a minute, you're a good person, you can't be that good. And it just reminds me so much of our society now, and even today with the reaction to this trailer, which, for I would say, the majority of folks are very positive and very excited about this trailer. And I only want to use the negative comments as kind of an example of what the movie tries to present, at least in the trailer from what we see. By the way, perfect thing of barely using any lines, just
Mm-hmm.
visuals. I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
perfect. But yes, in terms of that and what you see and how we see people comment on things, well, this looks like it was shot on the CW. And just generally like, oh, why do we need another Superman movie?
Yeah.
And what I find is when you look at people now and how they're just like, they're unhappy that people are happy about this trailer, and I find that so fascinating
Yeah.
because that is such a reflection of the avatar of the internet in this movie, which is Lex Luthor, who
Yeah.
doesn't understand why people love this godlike
Mm-hmm.
character who is legitimately a hero and legitimately sent here to do good, but yet he can't see it. So I love that James Gunn has been talking about how that kind of parallel from real life to what this movie and the ethos of Superman is supposed to play out in this movie, and I think the visuals did a great job of underscoring that.
Yeah, and I think that because what you're talking about, which I think is something that just plagues society now generally, is I think so much of the bad stuff in the world is people who don't have compassion for themselves and therefore don't allow themselves to see the capacity for good that people have, and I think that that's something that Lex Luthor I think always has in some level. Like to go back to cynicism, like bad guys are always cynical, right?
Yeah.
Like Lex Luthor is an avatar of cynicism. Like that's kind of his whole deal. Like that's what the reason he hates Superman so much is because if Superman is actually everything he seems like, then Lex Luthor's whole worldview is incorrect. If an alien who crashes in Kansas actually has the capability to be an unequivocal good and not be a terror and not this, that, or the other, then like bad guys actually don't have an argument at all. Like they're obsolete. And so I think that foregrounding that, making that the theme of the movie, I think is um really smart. And I think it also like I think that you talk about like loud minorities in the world. I really think that, especially in this day and age, the the people saying it's like a CW show or like not liking it, like as Snyder would have done this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
Like I think that they're really, really vocal minority because not just because the numbers show that people didn't really like the Zack Snyder movies, but I also think it's like I think that people I think there's very much a feeling that people who are really cynical and loud about it can tire you out where you don't want to even engage anymore because it's like whatever. If I say anything, someone's
Yes.
gonna come to me and say like,
Yeah.
"Well, this is not realistic," or "This is not this or the other." And I think that just to go back to the well again because it's a teaser, so we don't really know a ton. Like I don't have much to say about the plot or whatever, but it's like
Hmm.
it's just refreshing to have like the swelling music, to have a fucking dog come up and like it's
Yo,
like
shout out to Chris
no,
Joe.
like just it's nice to have, and this is giving this movie too much credit, just a movie, but like a big movie stand up and say like, no, we're done with like that is let's leave that behind. We don't need to do this anymore where everything needs to be like calibrated 15 degrees to make sure that someone doesn't say some cynical dumb thing about it. It's like, no, man, Superman's gonna have floppy hair when he's Clark Kent. He's
Yes.
gonna, wear a
What a
wrestling outfit.
what a goofy ass Clark Kent we got. It's
Yeah,
so perfect.
I'll say this: you look at them side to side, like, I mean, I remember I saw this great TikTok, and I apologize I haven't credited someone, but like the people was like, how do they not recognize Clark Kent as Superman or whatever? That the point someone made is that if you were in like the suburbs of Toledo, Ohio, and you went to a Starbucks, and the guy behind the counter looked just like Brad Pitt, you would not think this is Brad Pitt working as a barista. You'd be like, well, clearly that can't be Brad Pitt. So there must be someone who just looks a lot like him, right? In the same way that
Yeah.
if you saw Clark Kent, you're like, he kind of looks like Superman, you would not think is Clark Kent Superman because you're like, well, obviously he's not Superman, he's Clark Kent. But looking at those two photos side by side, this is the most I've ever been like, honestly, I wouldn't make the connection
Yeah.
immediately. I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's perfect. And I love the way that you mentioned the trunks, which is something that James Gunn talked about. James Gunn did not like this
Yeah,
outfit.
I was setting you up.
And David Cornsweet was like, nah, we need to present Superman as somebody who, when it comes to kids, somebody who they could trust, somebody who they won't feel afraid by. Because this is an alien with superpowers stronger than anybody, who could literally destroy the planet.
Yeah.
So
And the
yeah.
thing that makes him interesting as a character to me, and this is why the Zack Snyder take didn't work for me, even besides the fact I don't like the individual choices he made, is that like if you have a character that is capable of doing all those things, in my opinion, the most interesting thing you can do is say, and he doesn't do them. And what does it say about him? Like, what? It is such a interesting character. It's like you could destroy the world, you could make it bend to your whim, and you choose not to. That is a fascinating character. Like that is like, and I think that when people are like Superman's a boring character or whatever, it's like, no man, people who choose to be good in the face of
Yeah.
the opportunity to be bad,
That is
that is as interesting as any complicated villain you can come up with.
that is powerful. I think that I believe that Superman and Lois did this, the show that just ended on CW did this really well. Now, granted, TV, movies different, but I do think like it captures the essence of what not only Clark Kent is, but Superman is as a character, the ideology and that idealism that, to your point, when you talk about the way that this movie is presented, we're just like we're stopping. We're telling everybody stop. We're not doing this anymore. This is a new age. Let's get back to presenting good people being good. And at some point, you're going to have to look at yourself and when you're watching this movie if you're one of those cynical people, and then you're going to have to ask yourself at some point, huh, you know, maybe I gotta look at this a little differently because everything is viewed under the prism of, well, I don't understand why he doesn't have a little bit of a dark side. He should have like a little bit of there should be some gray. Why is everything in black and white? And I think it's to your point. It's so interesting to watch somebody have the gold bullet and never use it. Never use it. The only time that he uses his powers is to protect people and to save people. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that is just incredible. And I think the fact that James Gunn said, I'm leaning into All Star Superman, I'm leaning into some of the books that really show the heart of Superman and Clark Kent at the same time, investigating the identities too, because I love the way that they focus on how Clark it really is stumbling and
Mm-hmm.
bumbling and how Superman is in this world where it's not an origin story. We are already in
Mm-hmm.
it. We're seeing it. We're seeing it happen.
Mm-hmm.
There are other heroes around,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know how they interact with him. Seems like some may like him, some may not.
Did you see the
Does
tweet that said that Nathan Fillion's Green Lantern looked like a racist caricature of white people?
the funny thing is, he looks exactly like he does in the comic books. So that's where the nerds who are like, I want my comic accurate Guy Gardner, guess what? You're getting him right there. He looks exactly like Guy Gardner
Mm-hmm.
does in the comics. So I think it's just so exciting. And also, I can't say this enough. Oh boy, me as a corny
Mm-hmm.
romantic,
Mm-hmm.
just the Lois and Clark stuff, the
There's a
Lois
lot
and
of kissing,
Superman stuff.
and I'm
There's
happy to see it.
yes, there's actual kissing. There's just like it's just like bubbly, not the stupid will they won't they tension. It's
No.
like we love each other, dog. We just going
Mm-hmm.
for it.
And you will not. The Wall Street Journal will not quote me about how the DCU does not foreground romance. I'll tell you that much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, just like little things, because I don't want to spend too much time doing the whole like Easter egg stuff, but there are just certain things that we saw. The fact that crypto is the one that the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I know James Gunn is like he's specific. He loves getting the animals in
Mm-hmm.
there and letting them do their business.
Mm-hmm.
Getting crypto in there, I think is a great choice. I
Mm-hmm.
want to see what the dog does and how powerful he actually is. Mr. Terrific, what type of role is he playing? And well, quite honestly, like even Metamorpho, like
Mm-hmm.
bringing Metamorpho, Hawk Girl in.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like members of the Justice League, and but this is not a Justice League. This is before
Mm-hmm.
everything happens, and we don't care about that. This is just the world. We're in this
Mhm.
lived-in world where Superman is dealing with whatever these present issues are. I don't know about them. I gotta be honest with you. Even if they don't even have to give me another trailer of this. I'm
No.
already seated. I'm seated. I'll be there opening
Hmm.
night, opening week. If I find a way to get in there a couple weeks earlier, or a week
Yeah.
earlier, I will try.
Yeah, we gotta see what we can do about that.
When they're gonna be there's gonna be some
Some
finagling
emails.
going on.
Yeah, we're gonna have
Yes,
to be like, hey, ignore the name of our podcast.
yes.
But yeah, I fully am in the IO Instagram comment. I'm so seated. They're asking, it's December. Why are you seated? Um, yeah, it's
Oh boy, kind
the
of needed.
vi-
This is a great way to close the year,
the
honestly.
vibes. I think about it too is that like it's such a great teaser trailer because it knows like the thing that makes a movie super successful at this level is not the plot, it's the vibes. You know,
Yep,
like because the people who go to see a superhero movie for the specific plot are people that are already going to buy a ticket for a superhero movie.
that's correct.
The people go to one because of the vibes or because it seems like a experience are the people that need to get. And I think that I don't know, man. I really feel like just this trailer, even alone, I think I was worried that like, will people know that this is a clean slate from the previous DC stuff? Because you
Hmm.
always wonder how much people are aware of that. I feel like this trailer made it abundantly clear. Like, no,
Yep.
this is a whole new direction. And man, James Gunn, shouts to him putting his guys. Like, I saw someone complaining that Nathan Fillion's in it. I don't care. Have your guys. I hope Jennifer Holland's in it. Um, and so I don't know. I just am so encouraged by how he seems to get it.
He's got his finger on the pulse of this
Yeah,
in a
he
way
it
that's
seems to
really
get
impressive.
it, and despite the fact that WB is screwing up
Yeah.
every other thing it possibly could,
Jesus.
um, I don't know about if you want to, if you can hit my Venmo, I'm gonna try to buy them up. The Sesame Street characters, they're for sale. I don't know. Might
Yeah,
as well
no,
put in a bid.
oh goodness.
Yeah, I'll no, just do nothing but Elmo and Rocco bits 24/7. Um, but he feels like he has the control to do whatever he wants, and the fact that he is like, because there's a comment him talking about how he's not setting up anything else, and I think that like I don't even take that to mean that he doesn't have plans for other stuff. I take that to mean like literally like no, this is not to setting up anything else. Like if because I think that this we talked about this on the John Wick commentaries, not commentaries, the discussions
Yes.
is if you paint a world rich enough spin-offs and other stories will come together naturally.
Yes.
You don't I think that you can actually argue that one of the problems Marvel has is that they're very myopic in terms of what they like how much they color in the world. And so like in order to set up a spin-off, they need to be very intentional about it. Whereas like if you just build out a world with a lot of interesting heroes and it's all well thought out or whatever, when the movie ends, audience members themselves will be thinking, well, what about this? What about this? They don't need to be told what to think about. And I think that that is like really encouraging. And
Yeah.
they've cast great for the side characters, you know. Was it? Is it Edie Gathegi playing Morpho, or is it another
Yes.
actor? Okay,
No, you got it
yeah.
right. Yeah.
I mean, hopefully he doesn't die 10 minutes in him being a superhero like he did in X Men First Class. Could have sworn he was supposed to have, he was so evolved he'd survive anything, but whatever. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, that was definitely. Oh boy, I remember that time. People were not happy about that. But yeah, I just feel like this is an example of something that I had said earlier today. If you are a movie that's in the vicinity of this, or are gonna be a couple of weeks in the vicinity of this movie, let me tell you, you stay there, you gonna get swallowed up. That's all I'm gonna tell you. It's gonna happen. Just people off the strength of this just being a Superman movie, a new Superman movie, they're gonna see it.
Mm-hmm.
If this thing is ever actually really good, the
Yeah,
word of mouth
yeah,
is
it's gonna be
gonna
crazy.
turn it. It's
Because I
gonna
think
be
a
yeah,
conversation that I think people would love to have is to be the guy to tell their family, you know what, the Superman movie is really great. You know what I mean? Like that's what's happening with Wicked now. A lot of people are like, you know what, Wicked is actually really, really good. And like a movie being good or bad doesn't, obviously if a movie's really bad, like Joker, it will affect its opening. But like a movie being pretty good and being really good is what affects its legs these days.
yeah,
And like if it's pretty good, it will do pretty well. If it's really good, it's like I don't I can't a billion is easily within reach, and I think that that's not a thing I would have said when I'll say this when it was announced like after the Rock debacle and it was announced that DC was redoing. I would not have said that like I can imagine the new superhero. I would not have said that a Superman movie coming out only like 3 years later would possibly make $1 billion. But now I'm like, yeah, fuck it, why not?
Also, if you're James Gunn, on top of that, you're a competitor. You
Hmm.
get into this, you're running this thing. You want to see if you could really
Hmm.
shake the trees, really make a
Hmm.
difference. And he knows, he said as such, this thing got a bang.
Hmm.
So there's no and that's another reason why, you build this world specifically. I'm gonna make this movie the way that I want to make it and not stretch it out past, because if this movie doesn't do well, then we're probably not going to get anything of this going forward.
Yeah, Millie
So
Alcock is going to be Nick Cage in a Superman outfit. Just one photo, and that's it.
Jesus. But that's really what we're up against here as far as this is concerned. Now, I think this is going to do really well,
Yeah.
and then the cascading things after that will be the interesting tell. But in James Gunn's comments and things like that, I just love that he's not running away from this, and
No.
that he wants to get in this game and really do some damage.
Hmm.
So that's I've always said, in terms of Marvel and DC, if DC makes good movies, it's good for everybody, because it's gonna
Yeah.
force the other side to be better too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and
You
the thing
want,
about for
yeah,
me, for example, like if when Burger King started selling chicken nuggets, they didn't stop becoming Burger King. So I don't give a shit. We'll cover DC movies, whatever. I mean, if we have, if it's good, I mean, yeah, I'm excited for it just because I'm. As I always say, whenever there's a big franchise movie, like I want it to be good because I almost certainly will see it, and so I want my experience to be better. Like I wanted Craven to be good because I was gonna see it.
exactly. So yeah, Superman July 11th. It should be very fascinating. We look forward to 2025 and what that will bring for not only the DC universe but us as well,
Hmm.
as we embark on another year of Marvel Cinematic Universe. I want to thank everybody for supporting us this year. We've had a lot of fun
Hmm.
doing the show. Adding the video element more consistently has
Hmm.
made it fun to look back at a
Hmm.
lot of the fun moments that we've had this year.
Hmm.
And I just want to say, kind of going forward in 2025, the the thing that we're going to have a big focus on is we're going to start chronicling the road to Avengers Doomsday, with 2025 being the ramp up of Marvel to get to the Doctor Doom and all of the Avengers coming back together. Whether that makes sense or not, that is something that we will be addressing throughout this mini series, which, to kind of go in just some brief detail, we have a bunch of episodes planned. We're going to have a bunch of our friends, both old, new, things along those lines, discuss like every little corner and crevice of the MCU as we dive into different topics that talk about these things and whether certain things work. Why is this person not here? Why have we not gotten another movie of this person? That is something heavily addressed in the first episode that we will release January 2nd. So look out for that. That's something that very excited for, because I just think in the old school vibe of what we started this podcast on back in 2018, when we were just doing the MCU movies and catching up on the way to Infinity War, there's a little bit of those vibes kind of going back and looking at those moments and character points and how that applies to what's going to happen going forward as we get to Avengers Doomsday in 2026. And as I mentioned, we got a lot of projects on Marvel coming. We got 3 movies. We got like 8, 9, well, 6, 7, I think 6, 7 TV shows along those lines from Disney Plus coming out. Captain America Brave New World February, Daredevil in March, and then it just goes on from there. So we will be very busy bringing you new takes, new different aspects of what we talk about on these things. I mean, even something that we love so much along that's not Marvel, Peacemaker season 2 is coming out next year. I'm sure that's something that we'll want to talk about heavily. We have a great number of friends and guests who have come on and will continue to come on and give those takes as well. So that's what we're looking forward to in 2025. Jake, if you have any thoughts on the rest of the
No,
year or anything
I'm
like
I'm
that,
excited for it. I'm
yes.
excited to gather with our friends, and I'm excited for this latest stuff that's coming up. I mean, I just love to talk about this stuff, whether it's good or bad. I think that it's always fun to talk about this stuff, and yeah, I think that like we're in a really interesting time with both the DCU coming back and with the MCU. at a real inflection point, and so we'll be there to chronicle it in 12 installments. I think, right? 12 we're doing.
Yeah, 12 at the minimum. It'll be 12. If we find more, we'll
Yeah.
we'll we'll find
Yep.
more to talk about. But yes, you will get that first episode January 2nd, and we'll be just dropping them in little pieces throughout the year. And then you'll get those along with everything that we do on the main feed with the movie breakdowns and the show breakdowns as we go along. But Jake, it's been another fun year, man. So
Absolutely.
with that being said, where can we follow you, my friend?
You can follow me on Twitter at the J Christie, on Blue Sky at J Christie, and on TikTok at the J Christie. Assuming TikTok sticks around. Gun to my head, I think it probably will. I think that they're doing some stuff just to, I'm if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but hopefully, because I don't want to have to start on another app because I'm so bad at like I got it falling by accident on one app, and I don't want to have to do it again.
I
Yeah.
hope that everything works out as far as that's concerned. You follow me on Twitter, Anthony Canton _3. Follow me on Blue Sky, Anthony Canton 3. Follow the show on all platforms, MC University Pod, MC University Podcast on the YouTube. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Like, comment, all of those things. And Patreon, as I mentioned, $3 for every single backlogged episode that we have, including the new ones that we got coming out, plus the Discord. And yes, appreciate again everybody for listening and supporting and just being along the ride with us. It's been such a pleasure to do this show again for another year, and happy to get into 2025. This should be a lot of fun. So with that being said, for Jake Christie, I am Anthony Canton III. This has been Marvel Cinematic University. We'll talk to you next time in 2025. Happy holidays.